Vermithor versus Vhagar. Who was more powerful in House of the Dragon? Full dragon power comparison and lore breakdown. In a world ruled by fire and blood, dragons were the ultimate weapon. But among them, two names echoed above the rest: Vhagar, the Queen of the Skies, and Vermithor, the Bronze Fury. One ruled the sky with unmatched terror. The other slept in the mountains like a dormant god. But which of these ancient beasts was truly the most powerful? Today we break it all down. This is Vermithor versus Vhagar. Welcome to the channel. Subscribe if you love House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, and deep dives into Westerosi lore. Let's begin. How powerful is Vermithor compared to Vhagar in House of the Dragon? Dragons in the world of Westeros. Before we compare these two legendary dragons, let's set the scene. In House of the Dragon, dragons are not just pets or mounts. They are weapons of mass destruction. Each has its own personality, temperament, rider compatibility, and destructive potential. At their peak, there were more than 20 dragons alive during the Targaryen Civil War, known as the Dance of the Dragons. But among all these winged beasts, only a few could truly be called great. And two of the greatest were Vhagar, the last of the original conquerors; Vermithor, the Bronze Fury, once the mount of King Jaehaerys himself. So let's dive into the tale of each dragon and uncover how they stack up in size, experience, temperament, and battlefield dominance. Vhagar, the Queen of the Skies. Vhagar was hatched in Valyria and brought to Westeros by Visenya Targaryen, sister and wife to Aegon the Conqueror. Alongside Balerion the Black Dread and Meraxes, she helped burn the Seven Kingdoms into submission. By the time of the Dance of the Dragons, roughly 130 years after Aegon's conquest, Vhagar was oldest and largest among the living dragons. Balerion had long since died. Meraxes had fallen in Dorne, but Vhagar remained. Descriptions of her during the dance say she was over 150 years old, with wings as wide as a castle gate, a belly scorched black from centuries of fire. Her rider at the time of the dance was Prince Aemond Targaryen, known as the One-Eyed Prince. Together, Vhagar and Aemond were an unholy alliance of youth and ancient wrath. One a hot-headed young man, the other a war machine forged in centuries of blood. Vermithor, the Bronze Fury. Now let's talk about Vermithor, also called the Bronze Fury. Vermithor was second only to Balerion in size during his peak. He was born during the early years of Targaryen rule and was the mount of King Jaehaerys I, the longest-reigning king in Westeros history. When Jaehaerys died, Vermithor went riderless for decades, sleeping in the caverns of Dragonstone, surrounded by smoke and slumber. At the start of the Dance of the Dragons, he was one of 3 wild dragons, untamed but alive. Eventually, Hugh Hammer, a blacksmith's bastard, was bold enough to try to claim him, and succeeded. Once awakened, Vermithor was not a dormant dragon. He was a reawakened storm. Size comparison? Who was bigger? Let's talk size. Vhagar was described as so vast, her shadow could cover an entire army. She had grown continuously over a century and a half. The only dragon bigger than her was Balerion, who had died long before the dance. Vermithor was no small beast either. He was nearly the same size as Vhagar, and easily twice the size of most other dragons like Syrax or Caraxes. The key difference? Vhagar was older and had grown longer, perhaps heavier. But Vermithor was broader, more muscular, and more compact. If Vhagar was a mountain flying, Vermithor was a living fortress with wings. So in terms of size, Vhagar had a slight edge in wingspan and age, but Vermithor was almost equal in brute mass and power. Experience in battle. When comparing these two dragons, experience is crucial. Vhagar had been in dozens of battles across 3 generations. She fought during Aegon's conquest in the First Dornish War and during the Targaryen Civil Wars. She had known multiple riders: Visenya, Lena Velaryon, and Aemond Targaryen. Vermithor had not fought as many battles. Under King Jaehaerys, he lived during a time of peace. So while Vermithor was trained, he wasn't battle-tested like Vhagar. However, when he did fight during the Dance of the Dragons, he showed incredible power. When Hugh Hammer rode him, Vermithor laid waste to enemies, burning entire castles, melting knights in their armor, and facing multiple dragons at once. But still, in terms of raw battle experience, the crown goes to Vhagar. Temperament and personality. A key factor in dragon power is temperament. Dragons are not robots. They have wills. Vhagar had become more aggressive, more independent, and more unstable with age. Even Aemond struggled to control her. A prime example. Vhagar disobeyed Aemond during the chase over Storm's End, killing Lucerys and Eryx even as Aemond yelled, "No!" Vermithor, on the other hand, was dormant for decades. When he was awakened, he responded with fury, but his actions were more calculated. Under Hugh Hammer, Vermithor was more obedient, but that changed once Hugh betrayed Rhaenyra and joined the Greens. Vhagar was pure destruction. Vermithor was silent rage. In terms of temperament, Vhagar was the more unpredictable and more dangerous dragon, sometimes even to her rider. Key battles. Let's compare their biggest moments during the dance. Vhagar's highlights. Killed Lucerys Velaryon and Eryx above Storm's End. Burned Riverland castles during her hunt with Aemond. Fought Caraxes above the God's Eye, leading to the deaths of Vhagar, Aemond, Caraxes, and Daemon Targaryen. Vermithor's highlights. Burned through multiple enemy armies after being claimed. Destroyed the town of Tumbleton during the First Battle of Tumbleton. Faced Seasmoke and Tessarion in the Second Battle of Tumbleton. While Vhagar died in a one-on-one duel with Caraxes, Vermithor died in chaos, attacked by multiple dragons after his rider was killed. Both dragons died violently, and both took enemies down with them. But Vermithor arguably faced worse odds, battling multiple dragons in an ambush rather than a fair duel. Death and legacy. Vhagar's death. She fell into the God's Eye Lake after Daemon Targaryen leapt from Caraxes and stabbed Aemond through the eye. Vhagar's body was later recovered from the lake floor, mangled and broken. Vermithor's death. He died during the Second Battle of Tumbleton. After Hugh Hammer was killed by his own men, Vermithor went berserk. He fought Seasmoke and Tessarion, two smaller dragons, and killed Seasmoke. But Tessarion. Both deaths were tragic. But Vermithor's was more chaotic, killed not just by enemies, but by betrayal and confusion. That outcome might be different. In the world of House of the Dragon, dragons are not just beasts, they are reflections of their riders. The power of Vermithor and Vhagar wasn't just in muscle and flame, it was in loyalty, legacy, and command. Vhagar was the last of the conquerors, a living weapon passed down through generations. Vermithor was the lost kingmaker, dormant until war woke him up. Their deaths marked the end of an era, when dragons decided the fate of kings and queens. So who do you think was stronger? Drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts on the Battle of the Titans, Vermithor versus Vhagar. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into Westeros' deadliest dragons and epic battles. Thanks for watching, and remember, in the dance of the dragons, even gods can fall.